funny thing happened. A coach, after displaying a kind of a toilet prank, was like, oh, I'm pressed, I want to go ease myself. That was the last I heard from that coach. He disappeared. People are now asking, what are the causes of this disappearance? Who are those responsible from these athletes? It must also interest you to know that, luckily for Nigerians this time around, we're not fingered. We're like, intact. But our brothers from Sierra Leone, from Cameroon, some other part of Africa, they're like involved in this disappearing act. I want to call it disappearing trick. Now, what do you think will be the implication of this disappearance on our relationship to other parts of the world? How does it affect immigration, both legal and illegal? Does it have anything to do with politics? What about economy? What about security? All these and more we'll take a look at on today's discussion of Africa Discuss. With me here in the studio, I have the project coordinator, Ida Renazan. Yes, Roland Moha. Welcome to the show. Appreciate your comment. All right. And of course, I still have a political analyst, a businessman, a politician help me in the studio to really throw more light on this surprising situation. We want to use the word pathetic situation. Join me, welcome Leo Ibagwa. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
All right. Athletes, coaches, it's like they're all involved in this. Right from Sydney 2000, keep on counting. It's like African contingents, they have this power or this strength or this voodoo in quotes, so to speak, to disappear whenever it's time for the Commonwealth Games. Sometimes in the Olympics also, depends on the country or the continent hosting, they just, bam, they just disappear. No trace, nothing. People keep on asking questions, what is really going on? I want to start off from you, Roland. What do you think gave rise to this disappearing trick?
Well, first of all, I like to say that this disappearing phenomenon by athletes started many years ago. You've mentioned the Sydney Olympics, even from 2002. And several countries, including Nigeria, we've had athletes disappearing, and this has continued. One of the major problems, I would say, that has contributed to this is, of course, economic reasons. We have seen some countries being labeled as dangerous countries by immigration officials, especially from Europe and from America. Some of these countries have been labeled as too dangerous to allow immigrants come in, get a visa and come into the country, maybe to further their careers or, family reunification or whatever.
All right, now you just hold on. We want to take a break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion. Do stay with us.
It yourself. We don't come again with our ogbonge program where ITV don't put it together to teach you how to become oga of yourself. We go teach you how to do the following things: bar soap, toilet soap, liquid soap, ice cream, yogurt, pineapple and all kinds of juice, chalk, candle, hair shampoo, hair relaxer, tie and dye, paint, hair cream, body cream. We go also teach you how to rear the following: pig, rabbit, snail, grass cutter and fishing. We go train our women how to do tsunami hat, fish net, feather hat. This workshop will take place for Glass House for Airport Road for Benin City. And the day when it go happen na 21st and 22nd April for 2018 will be Saturday and Sunday. To take part for this workshop, na shekela money will be 500 naira. Now you go take collect the form, and na 5,000 naira. Now you go take do the training. My people, una do.
All right, we had to make one or two adjustments for technical reasons. So you can please continue from where you stopped.
Yeah, so a major reason is because the destination countries, talking about Europe or America or Australia as the case may be, haven't really done their best in terms of immigration policies. Many of them have stringent immigration rules, and like I said, some countries have also, some of these countries have labeled certain countries as too dangerous to allow, you know, an influx, a kind of influx into their own countries. You know, countries like Sudan, country like Ethiopia, and so on and so forth, especially those within the Maghreb, you know. And it has become extremely difficult for people to go to these embassies, to get a visa and visit those countries, maybe to improve their careers. You know, it could be in sporting activities, it could be in, you know, education, and so on and so forth. So people find any means to get out of the country, you know. So if they are given an opportunity, for instance, to go represent their country in such tournaments, I mean, it's an opportunity to flee, you know, and that's what you see.
Wow. So the fleeing act became disappearing act, and people are like wondering what is really going on. Now, we've heard from Roland. What's your take on this?
We see the issue is this, the countries involved. The first thing is that the government, you first of all look at itself, because for quite a number of years, we've seen these issues repeating itself from African countries, most especially from either West Africa countries or any of the East African countries. But however, the reason is not far-fetched. It's either, it's no longer political, which that we know. It's economical and security reasons. And for these countries that are actually involved, you will see that economically they are nowhere. And security-wise, they are not there at all. So when you now have the opportunity to leave this country, what do? Most of these countries are handled by men that are, you know, using iron fists to govern their nations, to govern their countries. It's equally the same thing when you also see people from North Korea, you know, disappearing in, you know, defecting to South Korea or even to the United States of America for one or two reasons. But my main concern is that African leaders don't learn. They don't learn from history. They always take these countries as if it's their personal companies. They should have, by now, I expect them to be ashamed. If your citizens are now abandoning you, running away from you in mass numbers, either they pass through the sea or they pass through the road, even when you sent them on a national assignment. These guys who disappear now are on national assignment. So for them to just take off, that tells you how bad the situation of their country are. So to me, not that I welcome things like this, but I think it's a signal to African leaders that they should change their policies. You know, when I was growing up, I thought that one day we'll find a country that will be like Europe or that will be like America within the African continent. But I never knew that, you know, it's going the gap will keep increasing because it used to be better those days. When we were growing up, when I was in primary school, I was being lectured by taught by most of these Asian country teachers. You know, some of them from Indians and some other countries. But today you find none of them. Even we were even having some Britain here in Nigeria then. So today you can't find any. So what you see is that the countries are going downturn. And I don't know the thinking, the orientation of the leaders towards this area. Their concern is just, I think it's just the money and not their citizens. Whatever it takes them to stay in power, they just do it. These guys who are scorned now, they would have complained. If they complain, either they are labeled as an opposition in their country or they are given, they are called terrorists. So they just say, oh, well, it is better keep quiet until you are sent on a national assignment, give them a national disgrace. So to me, it's a national disgrace that they have given to their nation. So it's high time their leaders wake up and face reality.
All right, national disgrace. Now, but the thing is, well, like saying that if contingents are sent to a particular country to carry out national functions in form of sporting activities or any other thing in order for them to represent their country, the host nation should be responsible and in charge for their welfare, for their security, you just name it. Do you think it's lacking in this?
Well, with respect to this particular case, I don't think for now we can say that these athletes have absconded, because I believe that many of them would have been given some duration of stay. And with respect to this particular case also,
they got away very cleanly indeed. O'Hanlon got away brilliantly. O'Hanlon has got away brilliantly. That is just a wonderful run from Evan O'Hanlon. The bell battle now is for second and third, and will be the two South Africans, Charles de Trois and Dylan Buys of South Africa. They are your first three. Wonderful performance. Dylan Buys of South Africa.
It's been cat and mouse all the way.
That is the situation right now. And I also remember that in the section of the game, the authorities made it clear
brilliant burst of speed for the finish.
Countries that they
She's
will
really
ensure
going
that
for
they
this.
stay
She's got the
and,
strength.
that they
She's a
don't
mountain runner
experience
of
cases
huge
such
ability. But
athletes
listen to the crowd
absconding
respond.
or
Because it is my
cases
first
of,
time to come to
crime
Then in the 100 metres,
all these were made very
Simbine
clear.
has
And,
delivered a message
but
that South
we still
Africa
see
are a
this happening,
powerhouse
you know,
of sprinting,
basically
even
because
without
athletes are
the mighty
desperate.
Van Niekerk.
We have seen in the past where
He's just
even
going to talk about this for the next 4 or 5
not just
days, and I hope
athletes
that everybody in
this
South
time,
Africa
but
talks about this, not just for the next 4 or 5 days, but for the next 10 years.
Supervise their
The thing is like this,
team and
you're gonna
ensure
go out,
that
I'm gonna
they
go.
play
Then
the
I'm just-
competition.
Nah,
You
it's
see
just
them
for
also
me to go back
absconding,
home,
you know.
work
So
harder
that
so I
tells
can
you
make
that
sure
something.
South Africa were hoping to end their Commonwealth Games campaign on a positive note when they took on Canada in the 5th place playoff on Friday morning in Gold Coast. The ladies from the Great White North left their South African counterparts flustered after the first quarter as they raced to a 2-0 lead. Shanley Johnston deflected the first in off a penalty corner. Maddie Seko then extended the lead before the end of the quarter. They then put the game out of reach in the final quarter as Collie Johnston's well-executed drag flick ended the match as a contest. There was a consolation for SA right at the end as Candice Manuel pulled one back. Quick thinking in the box led to the goal, giving the South Africans something to cheer about as they finished in 6th place in Gold Coast.
He was granted refugee status.
Yeah, asylum.
He was
Yes.
granted asylum, and today he's representing the country. So, in some, you will realize that, it could just be a ploy by the authorities of these countries to keep these athletes for their own interests.
Because that is one example, like saying that, look, it's like these host countries, they are aiding and abetting. We don't want to agree to that because of the example he just gave. Because from what the authority in charge of these athletes talked about, said, look, none of these athletes have breached any rules talking about immigration.
Of course.
Now, how can they say that when it was time for one of them to come perform, he was nowhere to be found? Is that not a crime on its own?
No, it's never. According to the Australian government rules on immigration, these guys has duration of stay. And as far as they are concerned, their visa is still very valid. And the only thing they don't have is work permit. So they are not working for the Australians. So whatever they are doing in Australia is none of their business. Actually, they came for a Commonwealth game representing their country. If they fail to represent their country while they are in Australia, it's not enough for the Australian government to persecute them. So according to the rules of each country, they've not committed any offense as far as Australia is concerned. They have not gone there to seek for a job. They have not done anything. Their visa is still resident. Probably their visa could wait for 2 or 3 weeks, as the case may be. So to them, it has no problem. But however, if these guys also choose to seek asylum while they are in Australia, they are very welcome, because the truth is that there are so much story about their country which is not told by the press. There are so many stories that have been suppressed by the press. But these guys are there, which they can tell their host country life, what they are going through in their countries. Most of them, if you check them medically, you see their immune system must have gone there. They are minorities,
But still, these are athletes.
Well, you can say they are athletes.
Have that to do well for their country, because right now the reports we are getting is that African nations, they are winning more gold medals, but some persons just choose to abscond.
They choose to abscond because, one, in their country, look at the country's concern. Look at the security challenges. These guys, do they have job? Even if they have job, probably they are working with the sports council. How much are they being paid? Is he enough? Is he enough for a take home? And secondly, what is the economic situation in their country? And now today you have an opportunity. You are in Australia. When next will he or she have that opportunity to be in Australia? So it's an opportunity.
Are you about what they just did or what they are doing? Is that what you're saying right now?
Listen, you see, the issue is this. I said initially that the leaders should think of they should think of what is going on. If your country is well governed, do you think of absconding to another man's country? Do you think of immigration? If everything is intact, every amenities is in place in your own country, you don't think of migration. So because these amenities are not there, and the kind of life you live is unbearable, then every opportunity you see, you take it. Even their officials, you just said their coach, including their coach. So
that was so amazing.
If a coach can take such a desperate action, which means the commissioner of sports or the minister of sports can even do that when the opportunity comes. So the issue is this, my brother. Let's face reality. African leaders, they need to talk to themselves. That it is high time, they think of putting Africa, if not exactly like Europe, but however close to Europe. So that citizens themselves will now feel that, yes, they belong to a country and they come from a continent.
All right. Now, from what you said, both of you agree to the fact that they've not broken any rules. But I know that whenever you want to migrate, the first thing they will ask you, why are you coming or interested in going to our country or coming to our country? In this contest, it's for the games. And had they been called upon to represent their countries, they are nowhere to be found. Is this not a crime?
Well, I think this has been stressed, The authorities themselves have said that their immigration laws have not been breached so far, until their stays have expired, and until then, before they can say that they have breached the immigration law. So for now, they have maybe breached the responsibility that was bestowed on them by their countries to represent them in the games. So we may say that for their various countries, yes, they can be liable, if they go back to their countries. Maybe if by adventure they are deported back to their countries, if they like, may decide to arrest them for embarrassing them or stuff like that, So that's the situation right now. As far as the countries are, some athletes are privileged. So when you arrive these countries, you have the opportunity to take a tour around the city if you like. You may visit places, you may go shopping, you may visit families. You legally, as long as your visa is still valid, you can stay or do whatever you like in the country.
All right. Now, if you take a look at this report, you get to realize that African countries have been pinpointed or been fingered of carrying out this kind of a disgraceful
of 100-meter final.
If you get to look at other countries from other continents, you get to see also that sometimes they may have worse situations, but still they go back home. Is this a mental thing or just economic thing? Because right now, we see some countries that they are worse off than some of these African countries, but they don't behave in such a manner. So why African countries?
Look at the focus.
I don't think
wonderful display of athleticism.
Great
heat position. No real movement from the shoulders or upper body.
Loving the tash as well.
Countries
and that big dive over the line.
That are worse off.
And now he can focus on running
in the world.
his coffee shop in Canberra.
African continent or African countries.
Just confirming those results, even O'Hanlon, the gold medalist,
these are people who have no respect for
Dean Boyce of South Africa. Charles de Trois, the world record. The world record, 11.35.
Respect for their own nation, because if you see the inhuman treatment that most of these citizens go through in the hands of their leaders, probably
the multiple world and Paralympic champion
it's unbelievable.
bows out as Commonwealth champion.
I want to repeat,
at the peak
I don't
of his
think there's
game.
any country. Which
and
country
we have
in Europe?
three
Tell me
very
any
classy
country in
Kenyans
Europe
and three
that
very
is worse
classy
than
Ugandans
Ethiopia
in this
or
one.
Eritrea or
It's a hard
Somalia.
one to accurately predict.
I keep naming
Stella
them.
Chizang is a
I don't
classy
think there is
competitor
just
from
none.
Uganda, very
But
good
the truth of the
cross-country
matter is
runner.
that it is high time African leaders come together and focus on themselves. If the EU tells you how much money they pump into these African countries to make it more livable, more habitable by their citizens, for their citizens, it will surprise you. To let you know that African countries, most of these African countries is not habitable. Most of these countries are not even in the list of world country tourism. You understand? They don't even visit here as a tourist. Since the beginning of this year, I don't know if you've seen any tourists in Nigeria. Have you seen any tourists in Nigeria?
Well, let's say just one or two. I've seen one or two of them. They just came and like, want to see what Nigeria looks like.
Okay, probably one or two came for one or two things, probably just for bet. It's not Nigeria is not a tourist center, and since it's not a tourist destination, so many other countries in Africa are not also a tourist destination. So when you now realize that your country is not one of these tourist destinations, then you have to rethink that what is there is that your country is not habitable. It's not habitable. If your country is not habitable for other citizens of other countries, which means it's not habitable for your citizens. If Nigerians live here every day to Europe and America, and you don't see any Americans coming here, then our leaders will take a think and think twice and see how best they can reorganize this nation for a better living. Because most times I have never seen even some African countries citizens coming here to say, okay, we want to have a stay. Apart from those days when we used to have Ghanaians. Since then, have you ever seen any other citizens like Ghanaian coming here to say, even Nigerians are not running to Ghana, taking their children to Ghana, even to school. So yesterday I was even talking with some persons and they were telling me the school fees they pay in even the state universities these days. It's alarming. A country that is now taking education beyond the poor. Education, you are taking it beyond the poor. Now it's going for the rich. Then what do you expect? So you should expect migration.
Okay, now, I'm like saying that before an athlete leaves a country or his or her own country and go to another country to represent his or mother's land, is like there's a collaboration that they know what they are doing. There has been a kind of a plan between these athletes, their coaches and the officials that look, once you get to that place, you bolt. Would you want to agree to this? Because it's like the country is affected. They're not making any statement. They just kept mute. They're not saying nothing about it. All they know is that we can't find an athlete, as in we just can't find so athletes to do so and so to partake in this competition. They're not just there, and that is where they end the complaint. Are they really doing this in collaboration, what Nigeria would call collabo in pidgin?
Well, I wouldn't want to think so, because before these athletes go for the games, the countries would have invested a lot of resources in training and preparing them for the games. And they expect that they are making investments on these athletes so that they can go back and possibly continue to represent their countries in that capacity. And so I wouldn't want to subscribe that the governments are aware that they are going to abscond. Just to react a little bit on what Oga has said here, every country has its own challenges. If you go to East Europe, talking about countries like Albania, Bosnia, Kosovo, and so on and so forth, many of them also are struggling with economic problems, security problems. The difference is that in countries like Africa, where this phenomenon have become, most rampant, many of these countries don't reward hard work. They don't reward dedication. You would not imagine, or you would not see an athlete from, let's say, these East European countries that I've mentioned absconding. Why? Because you go back to their countries, there's a level. It may not be as beautiful or as sophisticated as you would find in some of these other advanced countries, but there's a level of improvement in some facilities. You know, if it's in sports, for instance, you go to Brazil, if you go to Europe, there are a lot of Brazilians, Argentines, you know, that are also smuggled into Europe, you know, just like the way East Africans or Nigerians or other African countries are coming in from Libya, you know, into you. These countries also have issues like this, you know, but the professionals, those who have careers, you know, they can actually build on these careers in their home countries as well as stay, you know. Look at the Brazilian leagues, you know. These leagues are very advanced compared to what we have here. Today, if you are a Nigerian, you are playing in any of the Nigerian clubs or teams or as an athlete, nobody knows you until you are able to travel and you get into these countries before you become famous, you know. So these are what we're talking about. In these countries, there's a level of development in terms of education, in terms of sporting activity. So athletes who choose to venture in any of their areas of interest do well. They represent their countries, they come back, and some of them even end as coaches for their local sides or whatever, you know. So, but in Africa, you don't see situations like this until you are out there in Europe or in America or in Australia or in Canada. You are not known, you know. So our government must begin to put emphasis on the development of our sporting facilities, our educational facilities, like he's mentioned also. These are the two key sectors that the youths are mainly involved, education and sports. And if you don't have facilities that can enable them compete, then you will definitely lose this group of people. You know, we've had athletes in Nigeria that get injured, and they spend their own monies to take care of themselves, to treat themselves, fly themselves abroad. You know, a lot of them, we've seen a lot of cases with knee injuries and so on and so forth. And we imagine such an athlete coming back to represent his or her country that has abandoned him or her. You understand what I mean? So these are the challenges, you know. These two key sectors where the youths of the countries are mainly involved, the government should pay emphasis. You know, if they don't, we will continue to lose our youth.
Wow, he just raised 2 points, salient points. He talked about the reward system and, of course, development. Could you take it from there? Because he gave example of Albania, Kosovo. Yes, he's quite right about that economic situation, repressive situation. There were some war-torn zones, but still, these professionals, after carrying out their bid, they go back home, despite what is happening, even worse off than some African countries. So he said it must be the reward system, that hard work is not being rewarded with or to be rewarded in African climate.
That's basically the truth. In Africa, you know, hard work is not being rewarded. Crime is being rewarded. You see people who commit evil, they walk freely in the street, and you know, even when you report them to the authorities, and they get away with it. But however, people who actually, you know, give all their lives to the country, most times they end up with nothing. You know, the highest they can get. There was a time some Nigeria contingent, what they got was a handshake. You know. So
yeah, that was quite terrible.
What they got was handshake. So if there was injury, you know, you've gone to represent your country, and somebody is telling you, give you a handshake, will you want to do that next time? So if hard work is not being rewarded, then what it is? The next thing is, you know, you have to think of yourself. The truth of the matter is that there is no way we will compare any of the Eastern Europe countries, you know, to African nations, because I also know that there are some of these countries there who also have the opportunity to have a visa, a kind of a tourist visa. There is a particular time of the year they give them.
South Africa were hoping to end their Commonwealth Games campaign on a positive note when they took on Canada in the 5th place playoff on Friday morning in Gold Coast. The ladies from the Great White North left their South African counterparts flustered after the first quarter as they raced to a 2-0 lead. Shanley Johnston deflected the first in off a penalty corner. Maddie Seko then extended the lead before the end of the quarter. They then put the game out of reach in the final quarter as Collie Johnston's well-executed drag flick ended the match as a contest. There was a consolation for SA Roy at the end as Candice Manuel pulled one back. Quick thinking in the box led to the goal.
It's a particular season, a particular time, most especially during the season of harvest in Europe. They allow them to come in to do these menial jobs. So to them, they are used to them. They can, most of the facilities you find in Europe, you can also find it in most of these Eastern Europe countries like Albania, Armenia, even the Albania too. You know, Albanese can also find it there. But the truth of the matter is that I keep coming back home and said, you know, Africans, it's high time they develop their continent. It's just a high time they develop their continent. They should be ashamed of themselves because every African leader who has not visited America is not yet an African leader. You are dying to visit America, dying to visit Britain, London, Britain, Italy, Spain, Germany, Holland. They just want to. Just in any little period they are on holidays, you see them packing their children, running to. Well, don't you have sense? Do you see these people coming here? So won't you bring your country up to that standard that they also, while they are on holidays, while they are on leave, they can also bring their children here, so that these same amenities that you run to enjoy over there, let them come and also enjoy it here. You can imagine during the dry season when we have a sunny weather here, we expect that you see Europeans here, you know, trying to take advantage of the weather condition. But you don't see them here because they have that belief that Africa is not a place that is worth living. Because if your citizens are living and giving you a national disgrace every day, how will even the leaders themselves, any little thing you see them going to oversee, any little thing you see them running away, going overseas. So my take in all this is that until we begin to reward hard work, and until we also know that it is better to develop our own nation, develop your own continent. If the EU countries, which is the EEC, and American countries, you know, America also tells you how much money they have pumped into African continent, it will surprise you. And all this money are in the hands of their leaders. So to me, their citizens running away from them, it's a welcome development, so that let them have the country to themselves and their families. Of course, I don't say anything bad in it. Yes, let them have it. You can't fight them. If you go to election, if you win, you will not get the position. If you go to court, they are there waiting for you. Anywhere you go. So the only way the citizens have now is just run away from the country and let them have it. I mean, that's, as human being, you have the right to live anywhere in the world. So to me, they are exercising their right, and I think nobody should take it away from them.
Nobody's taking it away from them?
No way.
All right, when we return after this break, we'll take a look at the selection programs, or the way which these athletes are being fingered, trained, and of course sent to other countries for this sporting event, if that's where the problem actually lies. More like saying that if you want to send persons to represent your country to prevent what we call national disgrace, you have to know them in total. Is that what is lacking in this selection process? We'll be right back. Stay with us.
All over Nigeria, citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they talk and they complain about the herdsmen matter, how they don't burn things, how they don't kill people, how they don't enter farm. Some people don't talk, say, now what will be the lasting solution? Some Nigerians don't they call on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, making sharply order the herdsmen. But what will be the solution to this herdsmen matter?
Make government, what did they do for abroad? Get area where these people they reach, they do their livestock farming. So now that will be the solution. If not, I get cassava farm, your cow will enter my farm. What do you expect me to?
Of course, make everybody get here, because if you go to where I come from, to Bayelsa side, Some years ago, they come, they eat every gratis, eat every cassava product. When our people plant, they destroy everything. So that kind of thing, if you were to be in their shoes, will you be happy? Say the farm when you plant, cow, they eat her. They rape your people, your sisters. Then they kill some of them. Will you be happy?
Contrary is the case. You see them, they carry gun. Where did they take AK-47 they do?
That's a big question.
Government should do something. People carry arm. If I carry dagger here now, before you know it, it's short.
They should say the truth. No truth in Nigeria. That is the problem. No truth for Nigeria. Yes, no truth for Nigeria. Nigerian people are not saying.
Individuals go build ranch. That's where they get cow. The cow, they buy land. They build ranch. Then they provide food from the ranch. The cow, they eat. Now I'm saying just go eat people crops.
It's not good the way that they say they operate now. Person go just there for a farm, they work. The next thing I say, cow don't come with herdsmen. Now the next thing I to cut the head off. It's not good.
Don't forget to watch us on Top God TV. We're there on Top God TV for channel 107. On Top Start Time, we're there on Top Start Time for channel 130. Things they happen and they come your area. And they come your area.
Waiting they happen.
There is no.
All right, if you just join us, this is Africa This Course. We're taking a look at the disappearance of some African athletes in the Commonwealth game that is going on in Australia, and 12 of them so far have been reported missing. They don't know where they are, whereabouts unknown. But from what the Australian authorities are saying, they've not breached any migration or immigration law that stipulated time given to them for the visa to expire is still very much intact. But the big question now is, since they are not partaking in these games, to whose own detriment? Do we have collaborations here and there that we are not aware of? The countries involved, are they aware that the athletes will really take off? What about some African countries that are still undergoing or going through difficult situation, politically speaking, security speaking, even economic speaking? They are able to hold on to their own and return back to their country. Now, this is what we're taking a look at in this segment of the discussion. Now, Roland, we have some African countries that despite what they are going through, they're still able to hold on to their own. After the event, numbers complete, straight to the airport and back to their country.
With full cargo.
Full cargo. What is different about these South African countries?
Well, you observed already that in the past, Nigerians have absconded, during some international tournaments like this. And luckily this time around, there's no case of Nigerians absconding. But you will observe also that some of the athletes, some of them are already based in Europe or America or some of these, countries abroad where they have been training, they have access to all the facilities, they enjoy all the privileges and all of that, and only coming back home to represent their country. So you don't expect athletes, in this category to abscond,
So you mean we have classes of athletes?
Yes, of course. In the last Olympic in Russia, we saw the Nigerians who represented Nigeria in the,
four ladies,
from
the
four
US,
ladies,
Europe.
Exactly. Many of them are based there, so you don't expect that such people will abscond, but it's not to say that all of them are based in Europe. There are some of them who are still here, some of them relatively doing well, some of them still have prospects, for some of them who won medals, I expect, you don't be surprised when you hear that some of them eventually applied to these countries and stayed back as well. They may not have absconded, but they came back, applied for a visa and went to these countries, and sometimes may never come back. Sometimes they come back to represent Nigeria. Of course, it's also a thing of honor to represent your country, not just to be a successful athlete, but for some people, they're also proud that they could represent Nigeria, So this is the situation, yeah.
All right. Now, should every African countries now base it on, if you have experience abroad, come and present your country to combat this disappearing act? Maybe if you are a local base, so to speak, in quotes, you're not going to go for an international representative or representing your country. But if you are out there, you train yourself, for your family, you can come back and represent your country. Should that be the criteria right now, or criteria to do the selection?
I actually do not know the criteria they used in the selection, but I also know that Nigeria has learned its lessons, whereby, like he has said, most persons who represent Nigeria now, to them, is just on their own summer job. You know, they're on summer holiday and they just come from one of two Europe country or probably from America, and they come to do a summer job in Nigeria and use the opportunity, you know, to represent the country. I want to say that Nigeria must have learned its lesson, because if you actually go to this selection ground, if it was actually opened to every person in Nigeria, to guys in the street, I think most persons from Upper Sakwamba or whatever would have been among the contingent. But if you find out now, you discover that it is the big boys, you know, those ones that are well fed, that are connected, and who knows what to do, those ones are there. So the selection process also add to the reason that you see that most Nigerians now, you know, probably they are there now. For now, you know, they are there. You know, probably trying to finish the game first before they think twice. Because even we are not even better off than some of these African countries for now, despite the hardship that is also going on. But the truth of the matter is that I keep saying, you know, African leaders should wake up and see how best they can upgrade Africa. Every day or every month or every year, things are no longer the same. It's no longer Africa that one used to have hope that you know, that one day you have a metro, you know, one day you can see a tram in the street. I know that a lot of Nigerians don't even know what is called tram. Talk less of say they want to see a metro, you know, which is underground train that goes within the city, just within the city, not even interstate. So it's quite unfortunate that all these amenities they see outside the country, Nigeria, they can't even come and implement it in their own nations. But I want to believe that most of the problem these African countries are also having is their selection, is that most persons must have also say, hey, it's an opportunity, you know, something must have
exchange hands, yeah,
you know, which is normal in every cases like this. You know, who know man, who you know, who know this and that, and at the end of the day, you know, when you get there, the money your mother borrowed, your father borrowed, you got to repay it back, and hey, just take off and see how best. Then when you survived it, a few years later, you become a hero, and you come back home and you begin to represent your country. So, which is, you've not committed, it's not a crime. You have a right to migrate and you have a right to stay in the country where you are. But the only thing is that I know that these persons, either they are within the country, their host country, or they must have gone to seek asylum in one of the embassies within that country, and you know, just take off.
Wow. Now, do you see the number increasing? Now we have 12. People are still expecting to hear more of that, maybe 20. Because it's somehow funny and it's embarrassing. Do you see the number increasing? Now we have just 12. A coach included, because saying that, I'm like, I'm pressed. Come on, don't they have CCTV to know where this guy went through? And he just disappeared. The coach, boxers, weightlifters, come on. Do you see the number increasing?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers increases actually. But for now, let's say it stays like that, you know. But you will also realize that Australia is a country, is an emerging super nation with vibrant economy, and they're actually also looking for immigrants, you know, people coming in to invest in their country, to develop the country. you know, occupy the space and all of that, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised also to hear that even when these athletes are caught on the street or eventually apply for asylum, that they will get an asylum to stay in these countries. I won't be surprised.
Right.
And if this happen in the nearest future, subsequent tournaments like this, you will see a mass, you know, running. Let's say, you know, of athletes, you know.
Everybody want to compete.
Exactly, you know. Countries like Europe, you might not see this happening a lot because they have learned from security experiences, you know, especially as a result of terrorism. So many of them have tightened their security. They have put measures in place to ensure that they track people, you know, people who are not documented in their country. So you may not see this happening a lot, you know, countries like Germany, countries like the Netherlands, you know. You will not see this, you know, in a country like Netherlands where they have closed down about 10 prisons, you know. That's to tell you that the number of crime, the number of illegal migrants coming in and committing immigration offenses have reduced drastically, you know. So they have invested a lot in security. So you may not see this happening so often, you know. Yes.
All right. So you agree with him that the numbers will not increase because when we have just a dozen, just 12, not that much. Retinues of representatives, you see the increase in?
The numbers might increase. The game is not over yet. They just started, and
people are in already.
And some persons, you know, are just keeping tracks, and you know, connections, phone calls are going on. See what possible best they can do to live, you know. But the truth of the matter is that, like he has said, you know, if it is Europe, it will even be worse because the Europe even have more free borders than Australia, which is just far off. You know, you can be in Germany and just take a train, and the next morning you're already in Italy, or you find yourself in Spain, most especially when you have the EC visa. So one visa takes you around the whole Europe country. So it's easy to just zoom off and go away. But however, how good and how bad it may be, I think the truth of the matter is that our leaders the institutions in Africa, each representative has to wake up. In a country whereby there is no rule of law, when the rule of law does not stand, there's just no way life can strive. You know, people want the institutions to work. If the institutions does not work, there's just nothing we can do. And no matter how good you are, no matter where you go to represent your country, the first thing you think about is the institutions. And if they are not working, then there's just once you have an opportunity to leave this country, you wouldn't think twice. It's just to leave. The situation most of the African countries has been to for about 10 years downward is unbearable. Formerly, it used to be political refugees you find, but now it's no longer political refugee. What you see is economic refugee. So people are leaving their countries in mass numbers, whether you are on a national assignment or not, or you are on a private assignment, or you just decide to migrate on your own. So the people are leaving because the way of life is no longer bearable. Their currencies are depreciating every day. You know, I stepped into a place a few days ago, you know, just to buy meat pie, and what I got was that one is 300 naira. I was like,
and sometimes no meat in the pie.
It becomes air pie.
You know, so
right.
I was surprised. So really, I think our leaders should begin to think twice and give us a better nation, which we all hope for.
All right. So you're going to have the last line of the discussion because our time is up. What advice do you have for African countries, African leaders, even the athletes that are there, sent to represent their country, to bring back laurels for their country, that are wanting to like abscond or disappear, as the case may be? Briefly.
Yeah, everyone seek a better life, better opportunities, you know, and when it becomes impossible to get such standard, you know, at least variable or minimum standard, people tend to explore any possible means, you know. And so I will continue to advise our government, continue to, you know, people need to start to talk about the Libyan crisis, which we all experience, is an eye-opener, you know. And as we speak today, a number of people are still living to Libya or exploring other routes to get to Europe, you know. Just 2 weeks ago, there was a shipwreck. Yes, one of the boats also capsized again. Some of the migrants were rescued, you know, just 2 weeks ago, you know, still in the Mediterranean. So we need to, our government needs to emphasize on youth development, because if this continue in the next 3, 4, 10 years, the viral population of this country will just disappear.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on today's show. I appreciate your wonderful analysis. Top notch. We keep on watching to see if the numbers may just increase, or maybe they will just use their own mind, their own volition to come back and say, look, we are sorry, we are back now. Let's go back home if it's going to happen. African leaders, this is truly a slap, a national disgrace, continental disgrace. You have to wake up to your responsibility so that your youths will remain in your country. Youth out there, you have to say no to illegal migration. If you must go, let it be legal. All right?